My child, stop scrolling for just a moment, because what you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Something has happened today, something your soulmate never expected, something that shook the walls they built around their heart, and now they are whispering the same words again and again in the silence. I need to tell you what happened today. It is urgent. Please open this. You may not understand why your spirit felt restless before you found this message. You may not know why an old memory suddenly returned, why their face crossed your mind without warning, or why your heart seemed to pause as though it were listening for a voice beyond the noise. But heaven has seen what you could not see. I have watched the moment unfold. I have heard the words they could not speak aloud. And I am asking you now, do not rush away. Do not dismiss the feeling rising within you. There is more hidden inside this moment than you realize, and before this message ends, you will understand why today became the day everything inside them began to change. Your soulmate woke this morning believing they could continue as they had before. They thought they could carry their feelings quietly, move through the hours with a practiced smile, and keep pretending that your absence did not touch every part of their life. They told themselves they were strong enough to remain silent. They convinced themselves that there would be another day, another opportunity, another perfect moment to tell you what they had been hiding. But the day did not unfold according to their plan. A seemingly ordinary moment became a mirror, and in that mirror they saw the truth they had been avoiding. It did not arrive with thunder. It did not announce itself dramatically. It came through a conversation, a familiar place, a sentence spoken by someone who did not even know the power of what they were saying. Yet the instant those words entered the air, your soulmate felt something inside them break open. They remembered a small kindness you offered without asking for anything in return. They remembered the words you spoke casually, words they now realize carried more love than they understood at the time. And suddenly, every excuse they had used to remain distant sounded empty. Every reason they had given themselves for delaying the truth felt painfully small. It was as though heaven placed your memory directly in front of them and said, "Look again. This is not something you can continue to ignore. My child, this was the beginning, but it was not the whole event." Something else happened shortly afterward, something that made the urgency grow. Your soulmate received news they had not been expecting. It may have arrived through a message, a phone call, or a conversation they happened to overhear, but whatever form it took, it forced them to confront the possibility that time does not wait for fearful hearts. They realized that while they had been hesitating, life had continued moving around both of you. They felt the weight of every unsent message, every unfinished conversation, every moment when they almost reached out but stopped themselves at the last second. For the first time, they did not simply miss you. They became afraid, not of you, not of love, but of losing the chance to tell you what has been living inside them. Do not misunderstand this fear. It is not darkness. It is awakening. It is the kind of fear that appears when the soul recognizes something precious and realizes it has been treated as though it were ordinary. Your soulmate has spent too long assuming that the door between you would always remain slightly open. They believed they could return whenever they finally felt ready. They believed your heart would somehow understand their silence without explanation. But today, something showed them that silence has consequences. It showed them that love must eventually become honest, or it becomes a burden carried by two people who were meant to set each other free. This is why their energy feels so close to you now. This is why you may have felt an unexpected heaviness in your chest, followed by a strange warmth you could not explain. Their thoughts have been circling you with unusual intensity. They have picked up their phone more than once. They have opened your name, stared at the space where words were supposed to appear, and then closed it again because what they need to say feels larger than a simple message. They do not know how to begin. Should they apologize first? Should they confess what happened today? Should they tell you what they have been feeling all along? Should they admit that they have been pretending not to care as deeply as they do? Each possible beginning leads them back to the same truth. Once they speak, nothing between you can remain the same. You may be wondering what exactly happened. Stay with me, because the answer is not contained in one event alone. Today became a chain of moments, each one pulling them closer to a truth they had resisted. First came the memory of you. Then came the unexpected news. Then came an encounter that felt too precise to be random. Your soulmate saw something that reminded them of a promise they once made. To themselves, to you, or perhaps quietly to heaven. It may have been a place you both knew, a song they had not heard in a long time, a name appearing where it should not have appeared, or two strangers sharing the kind of tenderness they once imagined having with you. Whatever it was, it stopped them completely. In that moment, they were no longer thinking about pride, timing, or appearances. They were thinking about the life they might miss if they continued running from what was real. They saw, with painful clarity, the distance between the life they are living and the life their heart has been asking for. And at the center of that distance, there you were. Not as a fantasy. Not as a perfect image. You appeared in their mind as you truly are, strong, sensitive, imperfect, unforgettable. They remembered your patience. They remembered your silence. They remembered the way you pulled your energy back when you realized you could not keep carrying the connection alone. And something inside them whispered, they may not wait forever. That realization changed the atmosphere around them. Even people nearby could sense that something was wrong. Someone asked if they were all right, but your soulmate did what they have often done, they smiled, shook their head, and said they were only tired. Yet tiredness was not the truth. The truth was that their heart had begun speaking louder than their fear. The truth was that they were replaying every moment when you needed honesty and they offered confusion instead. The truth was that they finally understood how their silence may have wounded you. My child, they are not proud of this. They have carried regret before, but today regret became personal. It had your eyes. It had your voice. It had the memory of your patience slowly turning into distance. They began to see how many times you gave them room to speak. How many times you offered softness when they expected anger. How many times you chose not to pressure them because part of you believed love should never be forced. You may have thought those moments were unnoticed. They were not. Your soulmate remembers more than they ever admitted. The problem was never that they did not feel. The problem was that they felt so much, they became frightened of what those feelings demanded from them. Love demanded courage. Love demanded vulnerability. Love demanded that they stop hiding behind circumstances and finally take responsibility for the connection. Until today, they believed they had more time to become that person. But something happened that made time feel different. Perhaps it was the news of someone leaving, someone choosing another path, or someone finally speaking a truth after years of silence. Perhaps they witnessed the cost of waiting too long. Whatever they saw, it reached into the deepest part of them and awakened a question they could no longer silence. What if I lose the person I was meant to be honest with? And that is when the urgency truly began. They stepped away from everyone. They needed space. They needed air. They needed a place where no one could see the emotion rising in their face. As they walked, they heard your voice in their memory, not the angry voice they once feared, but the gentler one. The voice that told them you only wanted the truth. The voice that said you could handle honesty, but you could not keep living inside uncertainty. In that moment, they understood something that should have been clear long ago: you were never asking them to be perfect. You were asking them to be real. This realization struck them more deeply than any accusation could have. They saw how often they had mistaken vulnerability for danger. They saw how their past experiences had trained them to hide even when love was safe. They saw that you had been standing before them, not as another threat, but as an invitation to heal. Yet because they were still fighting old battles inside themselves, they treated your love as though it might hurt them in the same way others had. Today, they finally recognized the difference. You may have questioned whether they ever understood you. You may have wondered if your effort mattered, if your absence affected them, or if the spiritual connection you felt was only yours. Let this fictional message remind your heart of something powerful. People often understand love long before they learn how to respond to it. Your soulmate has understood your importance in fragments. Today, those fragments came together. And when they did, the full picture became impossible to deny. They saw that you were not simply someone they could replace by staying busy. You were not a passing chapter they could close whenever emotions became inconvenient. You became part of the inner language of their life. Certain songs sound different because of you. Certain places carry your presence. Certain dreams still leave them waking with your name close to their lips. They have tried to explain this away. They have tried to call it nostalgia, attachment, coincidence, or unresolved emotion. But today, none of those explanations were strong enough. Today, they called it what it was: love that never received its honest moment. Do not skip now, because what happened next is the part they are most afraid to tell you. After being alone for some time, your soulmate made a decision. They opened a message they had written before, one you never received. It may have been saved in their notes, hidden in drafts, or carried only in their mind, but the words were there. Words of apology. Words of longing. Words confessing that they had watched you pull away and pretended not to notice because admitting it would have required them to act. Words revealing that they had compared everyone else to you and found something missing each time. Words saying that even when they appeared calm, your silence had been louder than anything around them. They read those words again today, and for the first time, they did not delete them. Instead, they added something new. They began writing about what had happened. They wrote that the day started normally, but everything changed after they heard something connected to you. They wrote that they had been confronted by a truth they could no longer avoid. They wrote that they realized how much they had left unsaid. They wrote that they did not want to continue living as though their feelings were a secret even from the person who inspired them. And then they stopped, because the next sentence frightened them. The next sentence was not an apology. It was a decision. For several minutes, they stared at the screen. Their hands were unsteady. Their breathing changed. They knew that pressing send would be easier than living with the consequences of never sending it, yet fear still tried to pull them backward. Fear reminded them of everything that could go wrong. What if you had moved on? What if you no longer trusted them? What if their truth arrived too late? What if you read the message and felt nothing? But beneath those fears was another possibility, the possibility that your heart had also been waiting for honesty. The possibility that this connection had not ended, but had only been suspended between two people who needed to become brave in different ways. The possibility that the unexpected event today was not a punishment, but a divine interruption designed to end the silence. My child, heaven does not force hearts. It reveals. It invites. It places truth before people and allows them to choose what they will do with it. Today, your soulmate was given such a choice. Continue hiding, or speak. Protect their pride, or risk their heart. Remain inside the familiar pain of distance, or step toward the uncertain possibility of reunion. They chose to keep writing. They wrote about the first moment they realized you were different. They admitted that your presence made them feel seen in a way that was both beautiful and terrifying. They confessed that you touched parts of them they had kept hidden from everyone else. They wrote that when you looked at them, they felt as though you could see behind every carefully constructed mask. This was why they sometimes pulled away after moments of closeness. Not because the connection meant nothing, but because it meant too much. They admitted that they had misunderstood your strength. They thought your ability to survive without them meant you did not need them. They thought your silence meant indifference. They thought your boundaries were rejection. Only now do they understand that strength and longing can exist in the same heart. You could love them and still choose yourself. You could miss them and still refuse to chase. You could hope for truth and still walk away from confusion. This understanding humbled them. For the first time, your soulmate saw your distance not as cruelty, but as self-respect. They saw that you were not punishing them. You were protecting the parts of yourself that had already given too much without receiving clarity. They realized that while they were waiting to feel completely ready, you were learning how to live without the answer you deserved. That truth hurt them more than they expected. Something huge is waiting for you in this message, because the event today did more than awaken regret. It also revealed a hidden detail about your connection, something your soulmate had never told you. There was a moment in the past when they almost chose you completely. A moment when they came close to speaking the truth, making the call, appearing at your door, or changing the direction of their life. You may never have known how near they were. From your side, it may have looked like nothing happened. But behind the silence, a decision was being made. They backed away then. For a long time, they told themselves it was because the timing was wrong. Today, they admitted the deeper reason. They were afraid that if they chose you, they would have to become honest about everything else too. They would have to face the wounds they had avoided, the patterns they repeated, the expectations others placed upon them, and the life they had built around fear rather than truth. Loving you was never a small choice. It represented an entire awakening. And now, the event that happened today has brought them back to that unfinished crossroads. Your soulmate has begun to understand that the truth they owe you is not only, "I miss you," or "I still care." Those words are real, but they are not enough. They need to tell you what prevented them from choosing differently. They need to reveal the pressure, the misunderstanding, or the hidden circumstance that shaped their silence. They need to admit what they heard about you, what they believed, and why they never asked you directly. This is the secret weight inside the urgent message. There was information they accepted without giving you the opportunity to explain. Someone may have influenced their perception. A fear may have been strengthened by a half-truth. A conversation may have caused them to doubt whether your feelings were genuine. Instead of coming to you, they retreated into themselves. They observed from a distance. They waited for proof. And because silence creates its own stories, they began believing things that were never fully true. Today, something exposed the weakness in that story. They discovered that what they had believed may have been incomplete. They learned that your silence did not mean what they thought it meant. They realized that a choice you made was not designed to hurt them, but to protect your peace. They began to understand that while they were feeling abandoned, you may have been feeling abandoned too. Two hearts were interpreting the same distance in opposite ways, and neither one knew the whole truth. This is why they are saying, "Please open this." They are not only trying to confess their feelings. They are trying to correct a story before it becomes permanent. Your soulmate knows they cannot simply return with beautiful words and expect everything to heal instantly. Today taught them that love without accountability becomes another form of avoidance. They know they must speak clearly. They must tell you what happened, what they believed, what they regret, and what they are prepared to do differently. They know you may have questions. They know you may need time. Yet for the first time, they seem willing to face your truth instead of running from it. There is still one obstacle. Before they send the message, they must decide whether to include the detail that could change everything you thought you knew about the past. This detail involves a conversation, a promise, or a decision made behind your back, not necessarily with cruel intention, but with consequences that reached both of you. Your soulmate learned about it today. They were not expecting it. And when the truth was revealed, they immediately thought of you. They realized that you may have carried blame for something that was never entirely your fault. They realized that a moment you interpreted as rejection may have been shaped by circumstances you never saw. They realized that someone knew more about the connection than either of you understood. And now they are holding that truth in their hands. Stay till the end, because the energy around this revelation is not asking you to become fearful. It is asking you to remain discerning. Not every urgent message deserves immediate trust, but every honest truth deserves to be heard with wisdom. You are not being called to abandon your boundaries. You are being reminded that clarity may soon replace a confusion that has lasted longer than it should have. Your soulmate is still sitting with the message. The words are there. The confession is nearly complete. They have written your name at the beginning and erased it. They have rewritten the first line several times. They want the message to sound strong, but the truth has made them tender. They want to explain everything, but they are afraid too many words will hide what matters most. So they begin again. I need to tell you what happened today. They stare at the sentence. Then they write, I found out something I should have known a long time ago. Their heartbeat quickens. They continue, it has to do with us. And then they stop. Because the next line contains the truth they have never said to you, not once, not even during the closest moment you shared. It is the truth behind their distance, the truth behind the day they disappeared emotionally, the truth behind the choice that made you question whether any of it was real. My beloved child, the message has not yet reached its final sentence. But heaven has brought you here before it arrives so your heart will not be caught unprepared. Something has shifted today. A hidden chapter has opened. Your soulmate is closer to honesty than they have ever been, and the urgent truth they are about to reveal is not simply about what happened this morning. It is about what happened long ago. It is about who influenced the separation. It is about the promise they made in secret. And it is about the one sentence they are now trembling to send, the sentence that begins. The real reason I stayed away from you was because.